For the past 30 days, I committed to GitHub every single day as a little bit of an experiment to see if I could improve as a developer and see how much progress I could make on the Odin project, namely the final JavaScript project. In this video, I'll be going over the pros and cons from my personal experience of committing to GitHub every single day, a little bit of advice if you are going to do it, and whether or not I do recommend doing this 30-day challenge. First up, the pros. Well, I did make a lot of progress on the project I was working on, doing just little bits every single day. It was a huge amount. Whereas if I didn't do that, I don't think I'd be anywhere near as far through it as I am now. I still haven't quite finished it though. I just keep adding new features. I'm like, oh, this will be nice, this will be nice. Scope creep. It's terrible, but I can't stop myself. Committing every day does create more version control, which is great if you need to roll back. And it is just really a good habit to get into, committing often and frequently rather than just committing right at the end of a big project. It does allow you to practice with GitHub a little bit more. Unfortunately, I don't think I took full advantage of this because I was just working on personal projects. I wasn't branching and merging as much as I probably should have done. Probably one of the major pros is just continuous learning, more time coding, which generally leads to better and improved coding skills. Last but not least is, of course, the green streak. Got to say that as a pro. But in all seriousness, it is nice to have that on your GitHub profile, especially if you are looking to apply for jobs and, like myself, you don't have a computer science degree. Just having that on your GitHub kind of shows that you are very passionate about coding. It would not harm at all to have a nice big green streak on your GitHub when applying for jobs. Now, the cons. Obviously, it is quite time intensive and personally I find it quite mentally draining. I code full time at work now and then coming home to code some more. Sometimes I was just like, please give me a break. I was sick of seeing code. In a similar vein, burnout is a lot more likely to happen because your work-life balance, I found that very skewed towards work. It does also put a lot of pressure on yourself. Now, this may be good or bad depending on the type of person. If you strive under pressure, you may find this good. But I think too much of it is not great. And there were days where I committed small changes and thought, that's it, I'm not doing any more today. And I actually felt guilty doing that. And that isn't healthy. So putting that much pressure on yourself and feeling guilty about not doing a lot is really, really bad. And the final con I found is, even though you're committing more, which I had it as a positive, that can also be a double-edged sword because you are committing more, you are more likely to have bugs. If you're committing every single day, you may reduce the time you spend actually testing your features, and you could potentially be introducing more and more bugs. I definitely introduced my fair share of new bugs when I was committing every day. If you are going to give this challenge a go, please let me know in the comments down below if you've got a specific project you'll be working on. I am very interested to hear it. Now, if you are doing it, here's a few kind of tips that I probably should have thought about more before I started it. So firstly, know that you do not have to commit some new and shiny feature every single day. As I said earlier, I kind of felt guilty not doing a lot, and that's bad. Just know that small bug fixes or even just starting a feature and committing that is totally fine. Secondly is pretty obvious, but have a bit of a plan. When I started, I wasn't entirely sure what I was doing day to day. And with the nature of code, that does change. If you implement a bug, you then need to fix that the next day. That's totally fine, but generally I think having an idea of what you're doing today, tomorrow, and the day after is a great way to plan this if you're doing it daily. Another fairly obvious one is just to allocate time and create a routine around this. Sometimes I was coding before work, sometimes it was afterwards. When I got into a routine and shifted more towards coding afterward, I find it a lot easier to sit down and code. I'd grab my cup of tea, I'd put some nice focus music on, and I was ready to go. It would also be a good idea to share this goal with others so you can keep yourself accountable. Personally, I share it with colleagues, and I also started live streaming my coding again. That's on twitch.tv/cdev010 if you fancy viewing my live coding streams. Great to have you. But that kept me accountable. It also helped me with my routine as well. I would sit down, stream. It was brilliant. How did my experiment go? Well, I think it went pretty well. I made a lot of mistakes while building my project, and I think that is great because it's part of the learning curve. When you make mistakes, you try and figure out what happened, try to Google the answer or chat GTP, and you figure things out, and then you start understanding a little bit more. Like now, my knowledge of Firebase is, I wouldn't say brilliant, but it is a lot better than when I first started. So I do think my skills as a developer have improved, and I did make a lot of progress on my project. So overall, I am very happy with the 30-day challenge, and I probably would recommend it to other developers. I would say more towards those that are either starting out and just need more time coding, or those who are trying to complete a specific project. However, I personally don't think this is sustainable long term. I'm now going to be dropping my commits rather than every day. I will probably commit at least 2 or 3 times a week, just so I don't lose the habit, but I can also kind of get my work-life balance back a little bit. If you enjoyed this video, then you might like this one as well. Otherwise, I hope you all have a good day, and I will catch you later.